You're watching Connecting the Dots, reliving Northwoods history with Carrie Bladorn. 67 years ago, in the winter of 1959, Buddy Holly, his band the Crickets, along with Dion and the Belmonts and the Big Bopper, were crossing the Midwest as part of their winter dance party tour, a fast-moving tour that carried rock and roll into ballrooms and armories night after night. By 1959, Buddy Holly had risen from young Texas musician to a national radio star, helping define early rock and roll with hits like That'll Be the Day and Peggy Sue that were played constantly across the country. Wisconsin was familiar ground for Buddy and the Crickets. The summer before, the thick-brimmed glasses-wearing Holly had played the Crystal Rock Ballroom in Rhinelander, drawing young fans from across the Northwoods. But this return was different. As the winter dance party pushed south from a show in Duluth, it traveled south through Wisconsin on the backbone of Northwoods roads, Highway 51. The cold temperatures and aging transportation would cause problems that would lead up to one of the saddest moments in rock and roll history. The winter dance party tour bus wasn't a sleek modern coach, but an older converted bus. It was cramped, it rattled, and struggled to keep warm when temperatures dropped below freezing. Subpar transportation was common for touring acts of the era, especially those on tightly booked package tours like the Winter Dance Party. By late January, the tour was already wearing thin. The schedule was relentless. One-night stands stacked back-to-back with long overnight drives in between were grueling for the band members. On January 31st, the Winter Dance Party played the Duluth Armory in Duluth, Minnesota. The next day called for an afternoon matinee at the Cinderella Ballroom in Appleton, followed by an evening show at the Riverside Ballroom in Green Bay. On paper, the 325-mile haul was demanding, but manageable with good roads. In the Northwoods winter, it was anything but. After the Duluth show, the musicians boarded the bus and headed south. In 1959, there was one reliable winter route through northern Wisconsin, U.S. Highway 51. It was the main north-south artery through the area, kept open when secondary roads disappeared under the snow. Truckers relied on it, salesmen relied on it, anyone moving through the Northwoods in January depended on it, including a rock and roll tour already pushed to its limits. In the early morning hours of February 1st, the bus finally gave out on this very stretch of Highway 51, just south of Hurley near Pine Lake. With temperatures dipping to 35 below zero, the heating system failed completely. Not long after, the bus's fluids thickened by the sub-zero temperatures as it rolled to a stop and froze in the dark woods on a lonely stretch of highway about 9 miles just north of Mercer. Far from the nearest town and no way to contact anyone, the situation became dangerous. Without heat, fingers and toes quickly went numb as none of the party were dressed for the weather. The musicians huddled together, burning newspapers inside the bus in a desperate attempt to keep warm. This was no longer about making it to the next show, it was about making it through the night. Help eventually came from the Mercer area after word reached local authorities. Drivers, including local Bob Eckert, were sent out along Highway 51 to find the stranded bus and bring the musicians in from the cold. The group, including Buddy, bassist Waylon Jennings, guitarist Tommy Alsop, along with Dion and the Belmonts, and J.P. Richardson, better known as the Big Bopper, were taken into Hurley to warm up. Cricket's drummer, Carl Bunch, was hospitalized with frostbite in Ironwood, Michigan. By daylight, the tour was exhausted, shaken, and behind schedule. The Appleton matinee at the Cinderella Ballroom never happened. There was no time and no strength left for it. But the night wasn't over. The musicians regrouped and pressed on to Green Bay, where the winter dance party still took the stage at the Riverside Ballroom. The crowd danced, the music played on, and few would have known how close the tour had come to stopping altogether in the early morning hours along a desolate and frozen stretch of highway far to the north. That night along Highway 51 mattered. It was not an isolated moment. It was part of a pattern of cold, exhaustion, and mechanical failure that defined the final days of the tour. The following night in Clear Lake, Iowa, the tour played on. The cold was still bitter, and the memory of that long frozen night along Highway 51 was still fresh. When the show ended, a decision was made to avoid another overnight ride for the lead band members so they could get ahead of the weather and the miles. A small charter plane was arranged. On board the plane in the early morning hours of that fateful February 3rd were Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper. Shortly after takeoff, the plane went down in a snow-covered field outside of Clear Lake, killing all 3 musicians as well as its young pilot, whose limited experience in winter night flying proved tragically inadequate for the conditions. The loss sent shockwaves through popular music and froze a moment in time that would later be memorialized by Don McLean as the day the music died. But the ending didn't begin in the sky. It began on the road. It began inside a failing tour bus on that frozen stretch of Highway 51 between Hurley and Mercer, where the cold set the course of the events that followed. The Northwoods didn't claim the music, but for one long winter night, it shaped a moment in rock and roll history that we've never forgotten. I'm Kerry Bladorn, and you're watching Connecting the Dots, reliving Northwoods history on Newswatch 12.